Kuwait's initiative to host the second International Humanitarian Pledging Conf for Syria came as a means to end the suffering of the Syrian people and to improve the humanitarian situation there. More on the humanitarian situation in Syria in this report by Hiba Abdurrahman.
UN Under-Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief Coordinator Valerie Amos said that the Syrian crisis is the biggest humanitarian crisis that is faced today. These remarks were made during the second International Conference for Humanitarian Pledging for Syria that was hosted by Kuwait.
We are seeing millions more Syrians who are in need of help and assistance. I've just been in Damascus. The numbers have gone up to 9.3 million people inside the country in need of help. So many people, millions of people who have been displaced more than once, over 6.5 million Syrians. Over 2.3 million Syrians who have fled the country. These numbers are enormous. But I know that here in Kuwait and in the whole region, in the whole world, our hearts go out to every child, every woman, every man who is affected by the increase in the violence on the ground.
UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon also said that more than 9 million Syrians urgently need humanitarian assistance. Nearly half of them are children, adding that military attacks continue to target schools, healthcare facilities and residential areas.
If you look back, you take a look at what happened in 1 year from a UNICEF perspective, from a children's perspective. I mean, we had in 1 year an increase of more of a tenfold in the number of child refugees. So now we have more than 1 million child refugees who live in neighboring countries. Inside Syria, in 6 months, we had an increase of 1 million children who became internally displaced as a result of the conflict. In total, we are talking about close to 6 million children who need humanitarian assistance right now, who are affected by the conflict. It's a disaster for children, it's a disaster for the future of Syria, it's a disaster for the region.
Unfortunately, the humanitarians can't stop the war, so all we can do is help the people who are victims. And unfortunately, we have the same numbers of people who are still refugees, and then more and more and more who keep coming, and more and more and more needs. So the needs are compounded. I think if we can get what we say that we need, that's 6.5 billion in the course of 2014. We don't expect that all today, but if we can get that money, then we can alleviate the suffering of the Syrian people tremendously.
Well, as everybody knows, the situation for people displaced in Syria and then the refugees outside of the country is very bad. But your point is really important. It's the most vulnerable, which is often women and children, who suffer the most. And so my agency, the United Nations Population Fund, what we're trying to do is help it so that women have some of the services they need in terms of health, but also protection, because the issue of women suffering violence, both domestic violence, even up to rape, all kinds of issues, including forced marriage. These are really important, destroying the well-being of women.
The latest estimate indicates that some 4.1 million Syrians would be living as refugees in Lebanon, Jordan, Turkey, Iraq and Egypt by the end of 2014. Currently, an estimated 2.4 million refugees from Syria are residing in neighboring countries. The main purpose and concern of the second International Humanitarian Pledging Conference for Syria is to make sure that its outcome would help in improving the humanitarian situation in Syria and outside Syria also for the refugees. From Bayan Palace, this is Hiba Abdurrahman reporting for English News.